I'm no expert of politics, but the fact that it's the LA Dodgers, the New York Yankees. That's it.
Yeah. I've never seen it this polarized.
You know who did it? You know who did it?
I know.
You know who did it, Larry.
I know.
Before I say it,
I know what you're going to say.
You say it. You say who?
You're wrong.
No. Who made it this polarizing? Say it, Larry, please. Say who made it this polarizing. I'm begging you to say it. I am begging you to say it. Who made it this polarizing? That seems so opposite to the type of behavior that you represent from yourself. Why and how can you support a guy who also? Why are you running for president, Larry?
I never in a million years thought I'd run for anything. And then I ran, as you know, in the recall election. And I was approached by people I respect. My pastor, whose name is Jack Hibbs, Dennis Prager, without whom I wouldn't have a radio career, approached me, a couple of other people, and they all said, why don't you do this? Mm-hmm. And I thought they were insane. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought people were sufficiently angry at Gavin Newsom for shutting down the state in a way more severely than anybody else, sitting up there at the French Laundry restaurant, you might remember that.
Yep.
Drinking, I think, $12,000 worth of wine. I have no idea what he was drinking. I don't know that much about wine, but I don't think it was Mad Dog 2020. Mm-mm. And he's with the very same people that were drafting the mandates for wearing masks and for engaging in social distancing. He was doing neither. And so people were livid. And I thought maybe, just maybe, people had begun to wake up about the crime and the homelessness and how bad the schools are and how terrible our finances are. The average price of a home in California, Michael, is 175% above the national average. I thought maybe people had enough. They didn't, but I thought. And after running the race, I got in with just 8 weeks left. There were 45 other replacement candidates.
And you're talking about now for president?
For the recall election.
Okay.
There were 45 other replacement candidates. I finished number one out of all the other ones. I got 3.5 million votes, more than almost all of them combined. I got in with just 8 weeks left. I kept waiting to find out if I really wanted to do it. And in 8 weeks, I raised $27 million, more than all the others combined. So it was a spectacular race by any measure. I got outspent almost 10-1. In came Joe Biden and said, Larry Elder is the closest thing to a Donald Trump clone as I've ever seen. Obama cut a commercial for him. Elizabeth Warren did. Kamala Harris did. Bernie Sanders did. And all said the same thing. Nobody said, Gavin Newsom is doing a great job for the people of California on crime, on homelessness, on the way he shut down the state with COVID, on the way he denied kids a whole 2 years of in-person education, which is going to translate into earnings loss over their life. No one said that. They just said, stop the Republican takeover. I have one picture I've taken with Donald Trump in my life. Both of us have our thumbs up. I can count the ridges on my thumbs now, having seen that commercial so many times. All they said over and over again was stop the Republican takeover. And it worked in California because Republicans are outnumbered 3-1. The more I thought about it, given how a Republican has not won statewide in California in 20 years. Mm-hmm. Moses, John the Baptist, Mother Teresa could run. As Republicans, they would not win. Mm-hmm. And I thought, frankly, I had a better shot of running for president and winning than running for office statewide in California and winning.
But you know you're not going to be the president of the United States.
Such negativity, Michael.
So what is your...
You're depressing me over here.
No, I mean, listen, I would love to have seen you at the debates, but you're not even in the debates. So
there's a story behind that. There's a story behind that.
I want to hear it.
There's a story behind that. I should have been.
I want to hear it.
I got shafted by the RNC.
Okay, go ahead. Why aren't you at the debates? You're running for president.
I should play the race card.
Of course. You should have played the race card. Why aren't you in the debates?
I had to get 40,000 individual donors. Check. I had to get 3 polls where I was at least 1% or better. Check, check, check. Last minute, after the deadline, Ronna McDaniel, the chairwoman of the GOP, calls me. She said, Larry, you're not qualified because one of the polls you used, you can't use because it is, quote, affiliated with Trump, close quote. Which poll? She said, Rasmussen. I said, assuming that's true, why is it my problem? And she said, in the rules it says any poll that's affiliated with any candidate cannot be used by any other candidate. Rasmussen put out a statement and said, we're not affiliated with Trump. So had I called Rasmussen before I submitted the poll and said, by the way, I want to make sure you guys are not affiliated with Trump, are you? They would have said no, and she still would have disqualified me. So I submitted another poll where I was at 1% or better. She said you submitted it after the deadline, which is true because I didn't know I needed to submit another one. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, they had conducted their polling and finished it before the deadline. So there was enough wiggle room. They could have put me up there had they wanted to. So as far as I'm concerned, I got shafted. And when you're not there for the first debate, how are you going to do your thing? And I had some ideas about what we can do to turn around the country that others are not talking about, so nobody could hear that. So I was damaged by not making the first debate. The second debate, I had to have 3% in 3 different polls. Obviously, I didn't get that. I spent a lot of money on ads, but I got up to maybe 1.5 to 2%.
Why are they keeping you out?
My theory, Michael, is that I give them heartburn.
Give who?
The RNC.
And who is the RNC? The Republican?
Yeah. When I ran for governor, Kevin McCarthy, who's the speaker and is a Californian, did not support me, did not publicly support me. He told the dozen or so House Republicans in California to stay out of the race and to support a guy named Kevin Faulconer. He's a two-term mayor of San Diego. And it was obvious the grassroots wanted me. I drew Trump-sized crowds when I spoke. And it was obvious that the grassroots wanted me. And I thought at some point, even Kevin McCarthy would then say, okay, I'll at least give him verbal support, if not financial support. He did neither. I carried San Diego County, by the way, by 30 points.
Why wouldn't they be behind?
I've always been an outsider. I'm not playing the inside game. I truly am an outsider.
What does that mean, though? Like, why would the Republican Party not want you? And why would they go out of their way to not want you? Is it racism? Is it corruption?
What? Don't get it. They don't understand the connection that I've made with the grassroots. For example, one of the things.
But what would it hurt them to have you in there?
It would have been better ratings since Donald Trump isn't there. I would have been more entertaining than the other people up there. It was just dumb. Just dumb. As I said, I give them heartburn on a bunch of different issues. For example, the number one domestic issue facing America, by far, is the epidemic of fatherlessness.
Based on what?
70% of black kids today enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. 25% of white kids now enter the world without a father in the home married to the mother. And the stats are clear. If you're raised without a father, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail.
Why is that a controversial statement? And I know you...
Name somebody who's mentioned it.
Well, your guy Ramaswamy.
Where do you think he got it?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? I've seen him many times in Iowa, many times in New Hampshire. He wasn't saying any of this until I started saying it.
Ramaswamy stole your style.
Ramaswamy stole my line. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Are you pissed off about that?
No, I'm happy that we're talking about it.
Have you spoken to him or seen him since?
No. Yeah, I did see him. I saw him one time shortly after the debate at another event. He goes, "Oh, Larry, I didn't think you were going to be here." I said, "I didn't think you were going to be here." And we had kind of an awkward conversation, but I didn't. You know, I don't know. I just defend myself. I tell the truth and just see where the chips fall where they may.
Okay. I agree with that. And I've heard you on Charlemagne, and I've heard you on the other one, Van Latham, and the girl. And it seems like when you bring this up to some black people, it's like you're smacking them in the face.
Right.
It's so offensive
to them,
as opposed to being something that like collectively should be looked at and be solved. And I don't understand that.
I don't either. I think it's a number of things. I think it is perceived as somehow dissing the black females who are courageously raising these men and boys by themselves. I think that they don't want to acknowledge it because they would rather focus on what they consider to be systemic racism, and they feel this is sort of blaming the victim, and it's not. As you point out, you saw my first documentary. I mentioned in 1940, 87% of blacks lived under poverty. 1960, 20 years later, that number had fallen to 47%. 40-point drop in 20 years, the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion in history for black America. Even though 1940 still had the KKK, you still had Jim Crow, you didn't have Brown versus Board of Education yet, none of that stuff happened because it was rare for a black kid to be raised without a father in the home. Also, an embracement of Judeo-Christian values, a belief in entrepreneurship. Fast forward, Uncle Tom, too, talks about what happened to the civil rights movement after it had gone from demanding equal rights to demanding equal results, and people like Black Lives Matter began to lead the charge. On their website, they attack the nuclear family. So everything that made black people survive and thrive and grow after slavery is now under attack by the left.
Why? I don't understand that.
It's
specifically that.
Because it's hard for them to look in the mirror and say, maybe, just maybe, we're not doing some things we ought to be doing. Maybe, just maybe, it's us. Every group has a grievance. Japanese were put in relocation camps in World War II. In California, it was illegal for Japanese people to own farmland. Japanese have higher household income and net worth than the average white American. China. Chinese people were the first ones to have an act called the Chinese Immigration Act to exclude them from being immigrated to America. There were riots in places like LA and San Francisco and Spokane. They now have a higher household income and net worth than the average white American. Every group has a grievance. You have to do the best you can, take advantage of the available opportunities in America, and a lot of black people are just not doing that. They don't want to hear it. 1997, Time Magazine, CNN did this massive survey of black teenagers and white teenagers. since we're talking about over 25 years ago, is racism a major problem in America? 89% of black teens said it's a small problem or no problem in my own daily life. In fact, by a 2-to-1 margin, more black teens than white teens said, quote, failure to take advantage of available opportunities is a bigger problem than racism, end of quote. That was 25 years ago. That was before Barack Obama. I mean, so this is what's going on. And when I talk about this, a lot of people on the left don't want to hear it because they think I'm letting white people off the hook. I'm doing no such thing. What I'm saying is America has changed. It's changed mightily. Meaning once it happens, I can now say to the fullest extent that's practical, America is now evaluating people based on content of character, not color of skin. Now it's as if it never even happened. We don't talk about it anymore.
What's never happened?
Like Obama never got elected.
Oh, right.
It doesn't even mean anything anymore.
Right.